We've been talking about Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and what his legacy is to this day, how he has been in so many ways for so many Americans, particularly white Americans, Disneyfied. His outspoken confrontation of the military-industrial complex, his passionate argument against the war in Vietnam, his support for poor white people as well as black people, his attempts to the day he was killed, he was working to unionize sanitation workers. He had just come from the March for Poor People, or I'm forgetting the word, the Organization for the Poor, and just all of this has been turned into, he had a dream that one day little black kids and little white kids would hold hands. And isn't that what we're doing now? Well, not so much. And what we did see was both black and white poverty in the United States declined substantially in the 1960s as a result of Lyndon Johnson's Great Society programs. And in the 1970s, over about a 10, 12-year period, we saw poverty in the United States almost cut in half. And then Reagan came along, and black poverty in the United States is pretty much right now where it was then. It just froze everything, just like white income froze at that level. It's like it's been right across the board. So, but it goes beyond that. It's like slavery is this original sin, this cancer at the core of American society that we just don't confront enough. You know, what brought us to these kinds of things? What led to Dred Scott? What led to separate but equal? What led to Jim Crow? Well, frankly, what I think, what is leading today to this basically white racist Southern conservative movement. Anyhow, Noah Berlatsky is with us. Noah wrote a piece for, let's see, Salon? Was it Salon or Slate?
It was for The Atlantic.
Oh, The Atlantic. There it is. Hey, Noah. Thank you for. I've got it right in front of me, and it took me a minute to find the Atlantic logo on it. Titled, "What Movies About Slavery Teach Us About Race Relations Today?" And Noah, first of all, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you. Thanks
for joining us. We had earlier in the program, an hour ago or so ago, Daniel Jose Older on, who had written the book or written the piece for, I think it was Salon, that said it's time to take the white savior out of slavery narratives.
Right.
You referenced that in your piece, but you have some really specific thoughts about slavery and the way it's presented in popular culture. You want to riff on this a bit?
Sure, I can talk about it a little. I think that there's been a couple of high-profile slavery movies, especially recently, with
Django and 12 Years a Slave,
and Django, right? Which I think is important in a lot of ways. I think Daniel has I think it's true that the most high-profile ones, the narrative that we tend to be most comfortable with, is a story about, first of all, which is about, black people suffer and at the hands of white people, and then, as Daniel said at the end of it, some good white people or other, they save people, right, which
happens sometimes, but it's like
happened to some degree. That white people were the ones with power, and there was this big war about slavery in which lots of white people died. But I feel like it would be, there are other stories to tell too. Just in the first place, not all stories about slavery end happily. Right? Not all Holocaust stories have to end happily, right?
How do you pronounce it? Is it Sankofa, the movie that you're writing about here?
I think so. I think that's how you pronounce it. Yes, Sankofa. Right, and that's a story. That was a 1993 film, which didn't get a lot of distribution, but
I confess I have not seen it.
Yeah, it's hard to get copies. It's not around very much, but it's a time travel story, and it's basically about this woman who is an American model, and she's doing a shoot.
She's an African American model.
She's an African-American model, that's correct. And she's doing a shoot in Ghana, I believe, and she sort of travels back to the past and ends up as a slave on a plantation. And so it's basically about the fact that slavery is still very present. Right? So it's not really a story. It's like the story doesn't work. I mean, Kindred, which is by Octavia Butler, which is a novel by Octavia Butler, works in a similar way. It's a time travel story. So it doesn't really work in terms of, like, it isn't that there are black people who are oppressed and then eventually white people free them. It's more like there was this trauma that happened, right? And it still pulls at people. It still has this grip on the present.
Yeah.
So
you noted in your critique of, or your I don't know if critique is the right word, but in your narrative about Sankofa, that when she comes back to the present, she sees the white photographer who is shooting her because she's a fashion model as an oppressor. Suddenly, I mean, her perspective on him completely changes as a result of this experience.
She sees him as being part of a power structure which is continuous with the past. Because when she goes back into the past, she's as a slave, she's raped repeatedly. She's getting raped, and so that's sort of. And there's.
It seems that, I had this conversation a week or two ago with Andy Schlall, a fellow here in Washington, D.C., who's running for mayor. And he said, we need to be talking about race more in the United States. He said, white people tend not to talk about race. Black people tend to talk about race a lot. And Andy is, he's actually an Iraqi immigrant who is usually taken by African Americans to be African American and sometimes taken by whites to be Middle Eastern or something not African American. And so he's had both experiences, and he came to the United States at the age of 10. And it's like, if the thing that defines you first and foremost is the color of your skin, then it makes sense that you would talk about that a lot, that would become the center of your world. And whites have basically, white privilege and power in this society, and so the color of their skin doesn't define them in a way that they're conscious of. It's sort of like fish in water. They're not conscious of the water. Whereas for African Americans, the color of their skin does define them. Every encounter with the police, everything. And he owns a restaurant here in town, Busboys and Poets, and he was talking about how he tells his waiters, his wait staff, if you've got an empty room and a white couple comes in and there's an empty chair, an empty table over by the window away from everybody, they will like that, Whereas if a black couple comes in and you put them there, they're going to think, oh, I'm being separated from everybody else. It's like there's these different worldviews. It's pretty amazing stuff. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the things that's interesting about Sankofa is that it's pretty anti-white. I mean, in a pretty straightforward way. I mean, and anti-Christian.
Yeah,
because the
Christianity was used to justify oppression, to justify slavery.
Right, which you get in 12 Years, but even more than that, it's kind of, which in 12 Years a Slave they sort of present that, that the hypocrisy of the way Christianity was used. But in Sankofa, it's even more like being connected to African religion is, part of resistance and part of what is being undermined by whiteness. So I don't feel like that's the only story that should be told in terms of slavery narratives, but I feel like, having alternatives
it's good stuff.
A good thing. Yeah.
Noah Berlatsky, the piece is called What Movies About Slavery Teach Us About Race Relations Today.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Noah, thanks so much for being with us. TheAtlantic.com is the website. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks.